Welcome to Soltron. This is a video review for the Season 4 Dragon Force main sword robot. Here's a look at the directions here. So you can see it's a whole line of robots that basically turn into weapons. I got this guy, the one that turns into a sword because he looks the best. This guy turns into an axe, which is also pretty cool. And then it's like basically the same picture again. I don't know. I mean, these guys come in different sizes, so maybe that's why they come in like a deluxe and a Voyager size. And then there's these non-transforming ones. And then there is like a combining version that combines all the figures. And then it looks like there's like a cosplay weapon that you can make as well. He also comes with this little disc, which is part of some cosplaying thing. So you can see he's like represented by a dragon. And then I pretty much forgot what Dragon Force was, even though I did review this Season 3 combiner. So you could check that out in my videos. And then I really want to get, I kind of want this combining one, which I showed you in the directions. So he combines into this, and the sword robot's like the core robot, and he's got all these combiner pieces. And these ones don't transform, they're kind of like the Korean robots, like Tobot or something, where the combining version doesn't have transforming gimmick. This is like the Voyager size version, so as you can see, he's a pretty good size. He's definitely well over Voyager size. He's definitely leader class these days, and I thought it would just be cool to see him with Magiking. Definitely check out that video of my custom version. And here he is with the Titan class figure. That'll be relevant in a minute. All right, and here's a 360 of his robot mode. And for me, this robot's clearly a 10. Like, it's got the translucent plastic, which I always love. He's very complicated looking, but also very sleek and has excellent proportions. His legs are maybe a little bit longer than his body, which is always good super robot design. And he's just very complicated and eye-catching. He just looks so good. And as for accessories, he does come with this sword, which is basically what he looks like when he's transformed. This is a sword of himself, so I'm not sure how that makes any sense. And it's held in pretty well. His wrists come off on a ball joint, so a lot of times I dislodge the ball joint just trying to get this out of his hand. But here's a good look at this sword. Pretty cool looking. The color scheme reminds me of like Kamen Rider Wizard. And then it's got like a little version of his head for the pommel, and that's pretty much what his alt mode is going to look like, with some exceptions. And then another thing he can do is these little arm blades can actually untab. I kind of don't really like doing this because it feels a little bit delicate. And then they can just like switch around and becomes like these blade weapons on his arm, which is a pretty cool idea. It doesn't look like it's really deliberate, but it's definitely got a ball joint in there, so you are supposed to do that. And then you can also see on his body there's these combiner ports to make those shoulders for the combine mode. And then there's really no other combiner garbage on him, so he looks like he'd be a pretty clean transformation. I think I'll definitely order that combining version. I'm really curious about it. And then for articulation, he does have a nice ball jointed head, which is a little bit rare on Chinese figures. He does have swiveling bicep. He does have an elbow bend, but of course you get your curling iron elbows. You're not going to get your standard elbows on this guy. And then he does have like fingers that open and close on a pin. So that's a pretty nice extra piece of articulation they didn't really have to do. And then he does have ball joint wrists. And then you can move his hip skirts aside so he can get pretty much full outward kick. If you just lift the skirt, well, actually, maybe that's more like 45 degrees. And then for forward kick, he's got full motion on that as well. And then you can move all these skirts move out of the way, which is very nice. And then full backward kick. And then he also has clicking thigh swivel. And then double jointed knee, which is not for transformation. They just threw that in. So that's really nice as well. And then he does have ball joint ankles, which work pretty well for a figure this size. He's fairly light, but the quality on this guy is really good. I'm really impressed. Maybe like a, I don't know, I'd say a 9 for quality. I'm not really worried about him breaking. Actually, he does feel a little fragile in some places, so maybe closer to an 8, but he's definitely not knockoff quality at all, which would be closer to like a 4. He feels really good. I do enjoy this figure, especially the ratchets make him feel really premium. And then you also have to move these shoulders out in order to get the 360, but it's nice that they have that. It's probably more for his combination, but normally he can just move that much. No waist swivel, but he has almost everything, so awesome articulation. Like a really great figure, very fun. So to transform him is pretty simple. You're just going to open these panels. This is like the most complicated part, is figuring out which way to rotate these fists. So maybe not that way. I think you rotate them the wrong direction. Nope. I'd look at the directions, but he actually doesn't come with instructions. He only comes with that catalog sheet. So they actually go in pretty well like this. And you're just going to flip that down. And then you're going to rotate these and get these ready. And then these arms do collapse. There's like a extension joint right here. And then you're going to just rotate the thighs, rotate the feet down into the point of the blade. And then everything's going to, of course, just sandwich together. And then you have to have these skirts out of the way. And that's going to help tab it together, which is very nice. So that was like an extra little thing that a lot of times robots like this, they don't even consider that. But it's nice that they took that piece of engineering in there. Oh yeah, and there's like a little tab between the thighs. And that's going to help keep everything together. And then you close this up. And then these hip skirts have like this armature that helps them extend even further and kind of continue right into the knees. And then you're going to plug these little tabs into the waist here. So it's going to keep them held together. And then, of course, you're going to yank his head out. And there's your sword mode. Pretty clean looking. It's got some gaps in it. But overall, right, this is a pretty excellent looking sword. And it's made more for like a child's hand. It's very small for me. Maybe like an 8-year-old or something. But yeah, it's a little bit tiny. And then if you compare this to this sword, you can see they're very similar, but there actually are some differences. Like this sword is definitely a lot flatter. And then one difference I noticed is that his arm pieces are facing the other direction, which you can't physically do. So that the end of the blade is actually, this whole thing is turned upside down, which is not possible. I've tried it. There's no way to do that. And plus they tab in this way. This is how it's supposed to transform. So it's like a nice little, interesting little irregularity. But here he is with a Voyager class figure. So you can see that he is almost Voyager class in this mode. He compresses kind of a lot. And here he is with my collection of giant robot swords that I like to collect. And then I just want to show off, this one's one I custom made from Phantasy Star Online. Kind of looks like the Moonlight sword, but yeah, I really like how that turned out. So yeah, if I ever sold you a robot that was missing its sword, that's why I kind of hoard these. Go ahead and ask me in the comments if you're curious about any of those swords. So I also want to show off like how our custom tidal wave's doing. And then here's how this guy scales with a Titan class figure. His fingers aren't really strong enough to hold it, so I'm gonna have to hold his hand on this one. But you can see that this guy is actually pretty good scale for Titan class. All right, here we go with Black Zarak. You can see that it pretty much fits. It's a little small for a Titan class figure. It looks more like a dagger, but I think that counts as a sword. So anyway, that's all for this review. You can get this guy on Sir Toys. He's really awesome. I recommend it a lot. The play value is pretty good. I'd say it's maybe like an 8, especially if you have a bigger figure for him to hold or a kid that really likes swords. I'd really recommend it. All right, see you in the next one.